Well, Laura Young, otherwise known as Less Waste. Laura is an environmental scientist and climate campaigner and joins us now. Laura, thanks for joining us on the programme tonight. Just a few things to discuss today, obviously. So we're reflecting on Storm Eo in the programme tonight. As a climate campaigner, just how concerning is it when we've seen this storm, which was described as a once-in-a-generational storm? And what do you think Scotland should be doing to try and prepare for these types of weather events?
It's really concerning, and it is something that we need to be prepared for. And if we cast our minds back, this is not the first storm that's happened in recent months. Actually, if we just look back to Storm Babette, many people will remember the devastation, particularly because that also had very heavy rainfall and flooding that was associated. So we absolutely need to get prepared and make places more climate resilient. That means people need to understand a bit more of the risk associated, look up where they live on the SEPA, the Scottish Environment Protection Agency's flood maps, work out if they are at risk of things like flooding and look at what they maybe need to do to get prepared. But we also need local authorities to be thinking how we can make places more climate resilient and actually look at some of the extreme weather that is definitely becoming more intense and more frequent as we are seeing climate changing here in Scotland, and look at how we can be preparing places, because we have done a lot of construction and building and put a lot of concrete and homes in places that they maybe shouldn't be. So we need to look at how we can be engineering our way out, but also using nature to actually help protect, particularly some of our coasts and some of our low-lying regions that are susceptible to flooding and very intense storms when they come typically off the west coast as well.
Yeah, because obviously different areas affected differently, as we did see over the last week or so. The other news today, Laura, is the fact it's the deadline to bid to run the deposit return scheme. Do you feel this is well overdue? It's been in the pipeline. We've been talking about this for a number of years now.
Yeah, this is a big deja vu moment. The Scottish scheme was originally put forward to be put in place around 2023, but of course it was knocked back by Westminster with this argument that we should be doing it as a four nations approach. And now we have 2027 as the timeline for when this will come into place. And this is something that is very needed. We have heard a little bit about Ireland and their scheme and how it's made a real difference in terms of litter. And that's definitely something we also have an issue with here in Scotland and the UK. The Marine Conservation Society survey beaches every year and find that 97% of beaches have litter associated to drinks containers. And in Scotland, we spend £1 million a week dealing with litter. So for those reasons alone, we should definitely be trying to tackle this to incentivise people taking their cans to be recycled properly. But also, recycling is much more cost efficient when you compare it to waste incineration, which is where an increasing amount of our waste is going in Scotland. So even just with the economics of the argument, we should be doing this. And of course, we are trailing behind. There are plenty of countries around the world. Ireland has recently joined countries like Germany and Sweden and others to be doing deposit return schemes. And it is something that works easily, and it's something that is accessible. And many people, many listeners from this evening will remember back in the 60s and 70s where we had deposit return style schemes with fizzy pop glass bottles where you could take it back to your shop. So it's not a new technology or a new scheme whatsoever, but we are definitely lagging behind and need to be getting something in place for cost savings and, of course, for the environmental benefits that it brings too.
Absolutely. Well, we've just been looking at the difference that it's made in Ireland. Laura Young, thanks very much for joining us on the programme for all of that.
Thank you.